With OTAs wrapping up and training camp right around the corner, certain players are already turning heads and making serious noise. These aren't just flashes in the pan, these are guys whose dynasty value is climbing fast, whether it's earning reps with the first team, beating out competition, or just showing elite traits. These 5 players are pre-camp risers you need to know before their hype takes off. Let's dive into the top 5.
Hey.
Real quick, guys, before we get into the video, I wanted to let you guys know that every Friday here on out, I'm going to be doing a live stream with Justin Paul Sports over on his YouTube channel. We're going to be breaking down some All-22 film in terms of fantasy football outlook. So if you guys want to watch me break down film live on a live stream, you go check that out. I'm going to be putting the first episode that aired today in the comments below. So if you guys want to check that out, it would be very helpful, and I hope you guys enjoy the video. Thanks. Alright guys, kicking it off at number 5, we have Arian Smith going to the Jets in the 4th round. And, you know, at 6 foot, 179 pounds, he's a pretty lean guy, pretty smaller frame in terms of his skinniness. But, man, he's got a killer 40-yard dash time. I think he was in the high 4.3s. And when I saw the pick happen, you know, I was a little concerned with his health issues. You know, he was injured, banged up a lot at Georgia, never really had great production, and had some troubles catching the football. But, man, guys, in OTAs for the Jets, he's been standing out. He's been getting open a good bit. They've been putting him in a lot of different packages, and he's been catching the ball pretty well as well. He's really been stepping up to the competition for sure, and I think he's going to be a return specialist despite not returning kicks at Georgia just because of the speed. So I do think he'll be like a wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 for the Jets since that room is so thin. But I also think he'll be returning kicks as well. So, guys, watch out for Arian Smith. He's got the speed to burn people down the field at the NFL level. And if he can get on that field and be the number 2 to Garrett Wilson, I think he's got some high upside. So keep your eye on him. Next up on my list at number 4 is Bashard Smith for the Chiefs. They picked him in the 7th round, and he's very interesting in terms of a prospect. Normally I wouldn't be talking about a 7th round pick in terms of a riser, but he lands on the list because he's a wide receiver converted to running back. And he killed it last year in his first year as a running back at SMU. He had over 1,000 yards, 10-plus touchdowns as well, and was effective out of the backfield. Actually had more receiving yards than any year that he had as a receiver out of the running back position, which was interesting. He really just seemed to put it all together. He's super explosive as well in terms of his speed and elusiveness. Obviously, with the frame being south of 200 pounds, 5'10", he's got a kind of a lean frame, and I don't know if he'll hold up a lot at the NFL level. But in terms of his explosiveness, he's the most explosive back in Kansas City right now, and he will be taking over the 3rd down role since Samaje Perine left, and, you know, we don't really have a 3rd round back. As a Chiefs fan, I'm saying we don't have a 3rd down back that's reliable in the pass game outside of Pacheco. And Bashard Smith, I think he's super explosive, like I said, and he's been showing out in camp a little bit thus far. I think he'll also probably take some return roles. Nico Remigio, or I think his name's Nico Remigio, I think is how you say it, is our punt return, kick return guy right now, but I wouldn't be surprised if Bashard Smith takes over that role. But we've seen guys in the past in our 3rd down back role be relatively fantasy relevant in years past. So don't be surprised if Bashard Smith puts up some numbers with his explosiveness. All right, next up at number 3, we have Dante Thornton Jr. for the Raiders. And I'll say it straight up, guys. This guy has a ridiculous ceiling. So he's 6'5", 205 pounds. His arm length isn't anything crazy, but he was picked in the 4th round, not because he's big, but because he's big and fast. He ran a 4.340, guys. 4.340 at 6'5", 205 pounds. That's absolutely nuts. He came out of Tennessee where he was at his entire collegiate career, and he didn't really put up much stats. He did lead Tennessee in yards at the receiver position last season, but he's really raw as a player, guys. He doesn't really have that great a route running. His hands are okay, and his production profile is pretty bad all in all. But if they can teach him how to run routes and be a more agile receiver and more complete as a receiver, he's got the speed and the size to be an absolute cheat code in fantasy. So if you guys are seeing him as a free agent in your dynasty leagues, I would consider picking him up as a stash. I do think he's a developmental guy, so I don't think he'll play a ton this year. But next season, if he really starts getting it down in terms of the receiver position, he could absolutely break out. All right, next up we have Jamir DK for the Titans at number 2. And guys, I wasn't super high on him as a talent. He ran a 4.34 40, and he was picked in the 4th round. And, he's relatively young as well. But at Florida, he had some solid games here and there. But, I wasn't really bought into the talent. I thought his hands were questionable. And I thought he was more of a return guy, in all honesty, which, for the most part, a lot of these guys on here besides Thornton are return guys in my opinion. But he's got the speed, and he's been showing out. He's been taking second team reps at OTAs, and he's been showing out with Ayomanor. Both of those receivers have been really, popping off a little bit at OTAs. But Jamir DK, he was more of the low profile receiver of the two, because most people were relatively familiar with Ayomanor. And DK is kind of getting his credits now. And, I think with the Tennessee Titan wide receiver room wide open behind Calvin Ridley, I do think Jamir DK is going to get some, targets next year, just because he will start since the wide receiver room's so open. I think Ayomanor is the better prospect, but with Jamir DK on the rise, I think he's probably not drafted in a lot of your leagues, so I would pick him up as a high upside stash. But if he ends up just being a return man, then you can probably drop him. Last but certainly not least, at number 1, guys, this guy has a ton of upside. You got Jakoy, Kroski, Merritt for the Washington Commanders. They picked him pretty much at the very end of the draft, late 7th round. And he went to Arizona. And if you're an Arizona fan, unless you're a really diehard fan, you might not know who this is, because he only played 1 game for Arizona last season. He had some eligibility issues, but in that 1 game, he had over 100 yards and a touchdown, and super good burst. Has some of the best bursts in the class, in my opinion. If you look at his 40 time, I think it was a 4.54 or something, so not necessarily super fast, but his speed when he gets the ball in his hands and he gets upfield is really noticeable, guys. If you watch some of his highlights, you'll see that burst pop off the screen like crazy. So he's going to the Commanders. He's been showing out at OTAs, and that running back room is pretty much wide open. Brian Robinson's going to probably be their workhorse, but he kind of falls apart a lot, later on down the season, and he's been hurt a good bit. And Austin Eckler is kind of like their 3rd down back. He didn't really carry the rock as efficiently as people thought, and I think Jakoy Kroski Merritt is the most complete back in terms of explosiveness. I think he can be very, very valuable, and he's a guy that literally nobody knows. If you watched his highlights at New Mexico in his junior season, man, he is explosive. He had like 6.2 yards a carry at New Mexico, and then he had over 8 yards a carry in the 1 game at Arizona. So guys, if you're hunting upside at the running back position, you can probably pick him up off waivers. This guy is an absolute high upside stash. Those are my top 5 risers heading into camp. Guys who could seriously reshape your dynasty rosters if their momentum continues. Let me know in the comments who you're keeping an eye on. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel for more dynasty breakdowns, and join the Bobby's Big Board Discord to talk strategy and trades with the community. Link is in the description. Thank you guys as always for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.
Hey.